Hello, today's recipe is Paleo snack bars. Let's see how to make them. So first start with 1 cup of dates, about 20 or so, and soak them in about half a cup of hot water. So I have already have some hot water here, and I'm going to add half a cup, or you can add even more until all the dates are soaked. Now keep that aside, and meanwhile take 1 cup of walnuts. So yeah, that's 1 cup, and these are raw walnuts, and going to add that into my food processor, and also going to take half a cup of cashew nuts. Now you can use this in the same ratio. You can use combination of other nuts as well. And now I'm going to just pulse these in my food processor. Now my food processor looks a little different. It looks like a blender, but it has a blade that's a food processor. That's why, if you try the same thing on a blender, it's not going to work. The blade of my food processor is different. So now that's coarsely, I just pulsed it for about 10 to 15 seconds, and that's it. And you have like a nice coarse mixture. Yeah, just make sure you get all of it out before adding the other set of ingredients. So now I'm going to take 1 cup of shredded coconut. Now I'm using here like the fine shreds, but you could also use coconut flakes, because ultimately we are going to shred them in the food processor to finer bits. So that's fine. And then now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. That's 1 and 2. So now next I'm just going to pulse these two as well, just for another 10 to 15 seconds. Again, remember, when you did the nuts too, don't over process, because you'll get nut butter otherwise. And here same thing, I'm just going to pulse it for about 15 seconds, and that it's a nice coarse powder, and coarse is what we want. See, all that shredded coconut has been nicely powdered. Now we have to kind of grind the soaked dates. So I'm just adding the dates from that soaked mixture, and then towards the end I'm just adding 2 tablespoons of water to grind it. Again, this food processor can be used for both wet and dry grinding. So depending upon what food processor you have, you may be able to do these steps in different fashion. You could probably start with the dates and then do the nuts one by one, but with my food processor, this is what works best. So I'm going to check now. See, all the dates are almost processed, except for I can see some big chunks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 more tablespoon of the water. Warm is best, so I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of warm water, so it enables us to grind it better. So in total I have used 3 tablespoons of warm water to grind the dates into this mixture. And now we add that date mixture into this bowl, which has the nuts and the coconut, and make sure to get everything out, because the date mixture can kind of get stuck to the food processor. And now we're just going to mix everything in this bowl. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, melted coconut oil. Okay. And I'm also going to add a little bit of sea salt here. That's a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. I used pink sea salt. And also going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So that's 1/4 and another 1/4. So that makes it half teaspoon of vanilla extract. I like to give that vanilla flavoring. It just, makes it extra delicious, I guess. And just continue to mix it with your spoon until it all comes together well like a dough. You can even, use your hands and just knead the dough. So it's coming together nicely, and it's like a nice thick mixture. So now we're going to dump all of this into a pan. I already have a pan. Now use a 9 by 9 inch brown, 8 by 8 inch brown square brownie pan. Lined it with parchment paper. Now dumped all the mixture into this, and I'm going to use the back of a spoon to kind of put it into place. You can also use the back of a glass or something like that to press it down, to the into the pan so that it's like uniformly spread. And to prevent that from sticking, what you can do is put a couple drops of coconut oil, and then that prevents it from sticking, the mass from sticking to the spoon. So now we're going to make the topping, the chocolate topping. So I added 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, a pinch of sea salt, and I have here melted palm shortening, and I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of that. Now you could also use a melted coconut oil for the same recipe. The only difference will be like the texture of the coating will be slightly different. The palm shortening gives it a little more kind of solid texture on the top, but coconut oil will be good as well. And if you remember, or if you've seen my fudgy brownie AIP brownie recipe, that had the coconut oil frosting, so you can use that same frosting too. But in this case I've used palm shortening, and I added 1 teaspoon of raw honey as a sweetener. And now you just mix it very well until it becomes nice and creamy. And before it becomes like too thick, before it comes to room temperature, make sure you pour it onto the top of the spread mixture on the pan, because otherwise if it becomes already solidified, then it'll be hard for you to spread it. So in that sense, actually the coconut oil mixture is a little more easier because it doesn't solidify that easily, so it's easy to pour. So you can do either one. I like the palm shortening one for this particular recipe, and for the brownie one I like the coconut oil, but you can do either. So spread it nicely here to cover everything, and then finally we just sprinkle some raisins and nuts on the top so that it looks beautiful. And so you can decorate it the way you want it with whole nuts. And then I'm also going to sprinkle some coarse sea salt on top, so that gives it. Next, place in the refrigerator for a couple hours or even the freezer, and then you get it out and cut it into desired size squares. I like to do squares and cut these into 16 squares. So use a large knife, and it cuts quite nicely actually once it has been set, but that's why it's important to set it. And refrigerator is fine too, for the texture to get it set, but putting it in the freezer actually makes it nice and hard. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Also visit cooktonourish.com for more such healthy delicious recipes.